Good everyone, we are going to be talking about graphics design today. For today, we are going to be taking the introductory parts of it. We are going to have a series of videos about it, but now we are going to just give you a little introduction just to make you better understand when we send the videos. Now, first of all, we'll be talking about some of the points to understand to be skilled in graphics design. You have color, you have depth, you have typography, that's more of the fonts and font style, all those things. Then you now have the structure, and you have imagery. Now these are elements that you need to completely have a grasp of and be able to wield, have them at the tip of your fingers, able to control them, manipulate them to some certain level before you can actually say you're a graphics designer. Now, with that in mind, there are things that you also have to keep in mind, things that you have to consider. You have to keep it simple. Like it says here, when in doubt, find the main points, focus on those. Bells and whistles seem cool at that time, but you have to ask if it really adds value or it's just cluttering things up. Now this means that things don't have to be too complicated for them to be beautiful. Just keep it simple. Sometimes you can make it complicated and it makes sense, but most of the time it's just like you're cluttering things up. Everything is just too jumbled up in the whole text. That's just what it says. Then imitate others. What does it mean? It means that you should draw inspiration from others. Go online, look at some works on graphics design, learn from them. Doesn't mean you should copy everything, take everything hook, line and sinker. No, you can look at the color they use, the color mixtures, everything, the type of fonts. Just use that as an inspiration for your own. To be a graphic designer, you need to be drawing inspiration from all these other aspects. Now, the next is going to be always keep on the lookout for good design. It's just the same as imitating others. Try to look at good designs. Try to understand what makes this design good. You look at something and you notice that people love it. Now ask, why do they love it? Why do they like it? Try to find out some of the things that were used in that piece so you can use it in yours as well. Now, the graphic design concept discussed here should be used as guides and not absolute. Doesn't mean that you should just carry everything verbatim and do exactly that. That's not how the world works. The way the world works is on improvement. You look at this and this is how this person did it. Then you improve on that, create your own. Don't do exactly what the person did. If not, the world won't grow, and you're not going to be a standout graphic designer. Now, about the elements and points to understanding to be skilled in graphics design, we are going to start with color. The whole idea of graphics design is bordered about color. It's color that we're going to use. You're going to use to portray the information that you want to portray. Now, the thing is this: the first thing we should think about with our material is color. Most people tend to just throw colors in as needed, and the end result ends up being disjointed. If you pick a limited and complementary color scheme up from the stick with only those colors, your content will be much more coherent. Picking a color scheme is easy. Picking a good color scheme is hard. A good color scheme will make your work shine. Now, we are going to go into color scheme for you, but let's talk about the colors themselves. You can see this colorway right here. You see red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. Now all these colors have meaning. Like if you have certain emotions that you want to portray, and then you need certain colors for them. Now you can see that it says here red can trigger powerful emotions, both positive and negative, to create a sense of urgency, which is why it's effective with sales. It also encourages appetite, so it's used regularly in fast food sector. You notice fast foods usually use shouty colors, very very bright colors like red, yellow. And then if you look at sales flyers, for example, you can see where they're really talking about emphasizing the sales. They usually use it in red. Red actually shows the emphasis. So you can see here on this color wheel, it says it's giving you some of the emotion that red actually portrays. You have excitement, you have energy, you have passion, you have action, you have desire. And the next color we're talking about is orange. Orange is another warm color, just like red. It's considered light and fun, so it's useless corporate feeling brand. Darker shades of orange are associated with autumn, which lends itself to more earthy brand. Yes, and then the emotions that this shows, you have optimistic, uplifting, rejuvenating, friendliness, fun. You saw for yellow. Yellow shows happiness, enthusiasm, friendliness, optimism, confidence. And then you can go down, you can see blue, you can see pink, you can see what black does. Black is more of luxury and power. You can see that in most fashion industries. And you have white and silver. Now we are going to the color scheme now directly. The color scheme, we have many of them. You have monochromatic color scheme, you have the analogous color scheme, you have the complementary color scheme, you have a split complementary color scheme, you have the triadic color scheme, you have square color scheme, and you have the rectangle color scheme. Now what does this say? This color scheme just helps you to know how to merge colors, know the colors that you use in relation to each other. Now you can see monochromatic says you're using a single color with different shades. If you can look at this color, we'll just take a particular color. You take red, you can see lighter shades of red as you go down towards the center of the color wheel. Just one of them is called the monochromatic color wheel. You can see a graphic design flyer or something on TV. It's more of, it has just one color, but different shades of that color was used throughout the piece itself. Now you go to analogous color scheme. They are formed by pairing one main color with the two colors directly next to it. You can see the example beside the text there. You see they chose blue, and then you now see the remaining colors, the other colors on the side of it. Those three colors, they're now analogous to each other. So using those permutations of color is what you're saying that you're using them analogously. Now a complementary color scheme, we're now talking about colors on the opposite sides of the color. We just draw a straight line from one color to the other, and then the colors on each side tells you are actually complementary to each other. So you can see here you have red and green. Now you can put this into use in whatever piece of graphic design material that you actually want to create. And you have split complementary color scheme. This includes one dominant color and two colors directly adjacent to the dominant color's complement. Now you can see yellow, and then it's splitly complementary to purple and something that looks like ox blood. The same for triadic color scheme. Let's draw a triangle. The three colors that it touches are the colors you're going to use in combination. Now you have the square. Just draw a square. The four colors that it touches are the colors that you're going to use in combination. Now you have the rectangle. The same thing for the square. Just draw a rectangle over the color wheel, and that is it. Now going to depth, the next element, you see that depth is used to show emphasis. You can see the example where it was said you have this is less important, this is important, this is irrelevant. The one that is very important stands out to your eye. The one that is less important is more a little bit into the background, and the one that is irrelevant is more into the background. You barely see it. You get? So this like it's laying more emphasis on that. You can see also the flyer there where it talks about admission open. Once you look at this flyer, the first thing that enters your eye is admission. You can see how it stands out on the page, and you can now go down where they used a brighter color too, that they use this rectangle to enclose the enroll now. These are the things that they actually want you to look at and see first. That's what the depth is used for. Now typography. Typography, we are talking about the font size, leading, tracking, display. Now for the font, this just tells you the type of fonts that you want to use. You need to use professional fonts. You get, there's some font that you're going to use that are going to do very childish. Some you're going to use, they're not going to be visible. Some you use and they're not going to be understandable by the general public they are trying to reach out to. Then you have the font size. It has to be reasonable. Varying of font size matter. If you want to be emphasized on something, you can make this one bigger, you can make this one smaller. Imagine everything is just the same size. Nothing, there's no emphasis on this, no emphasis on that. It's just like one full note, and people can get bored just by looking at it. So if it's varying of font sizes, you specify on some things, and then make the rest not to be like that, so they can just skim through and not go through everything. Now you have leading. What does leading say? Okay, this leading now is talking about the distance of each sentence to each other. You can find that if you put the lines together too close to each other, they're going to seem cramped and difficult to read. But if you give them some little space between each sentence or line, it's easier to adapt and put into your mind. Now going to tracking, we're just talking about the spacing between each letter. You can see, for example, this is the best product ever. The first one is too spaced and it's quite difficult. Before you're going to take a lot of time to actually figure out what this is. You get at some point you may be mixing up the letters. Then the second one is too cramped. You can't actually, it looks like one word, which is wrong. You get. Now going down to the next one, you have free online tutorial. You can see that tracking now was used in a very, very beautiful way. You see this free online tutorial, the letters are actually spaced, but the words, the spacing between the words are now spaced more. You get. So now what it shows you now is that we are emphasizing more on this free online tutorial. You get, just with this tracking alone. And you can now see that something that is you still want you to know, but it's not as important as the free online tutorial, which is the introduction to graphics design. That's just what tracking is talking about. Now display, you're talking about the bold, the italics, the underlining, the good highlighting and all that. Now going to structure talks about, it's more of some little principles where you have the Gestalt theories of perception, simplicity, you have relationships, and then you have I think the golden ratio. Now what does structure was, for example, let's talk about the Gestalt theories of perception. You have closure. You can see how the square was formed with a completely different shape. You can see the circles were used to form a square. Now the square didn't have to be drawn for you to know that this person is trying to imply a square. That's what closure is talking about. You go to simplicity. Sometimes the opposite occurs. We have a complex shape, but the mind can break it down into series of simple shapes. You can use simple shapes. You don't have to make things too complicated. Do you understand? Just use simple shapes that you can put together and still make your points. Then you have relationships. If you look, the mind tries to like group things. That's how the mind works. So if you look at this example here, you're going to see three groups. Your mind is just going to give you three groups. Now you have the orange small circles, that's one group. You have the blue larger circles, that's the second group, and you have the small blue circles. Your mind has already given you three groups. So on your own piece or whatever you want to put out there as related to graphics design, you can like group the whole page. Just give it this kind of structure where everything is grouped. You get, and this can also help you lay more emphasis. Some text can be written in the big ones, and then their mind goes first to the ones that in that big. Or you want that your mind to, you can use color too. You can make this group here of a very, very shouty color, and then your mind goes straight to the one that is shouty, just to lay more emphasis. Now the next thing we're going to talk about is quiet structure. What's quiet structure talking about? You can see that the examples here. The first one where they say that the quiet structure is noisy, the structure there is actually noisy. You see that there is uneven spacing, and then as there is uneven spacing, your mind tries to understand what is really happening. Why is it uneven? Is there some information within this that I need to understand? The truth is that it's something straightforward. Nothing really, there's nothing serious about it that you need to really know. But the mistake there was that it was unevenly spaced, and then it makes the person to be wasting his or her time trying to figure out why it was done. Why the one that is quiet just goes straight to the point, makes everything to be balanced, that you just know, okay, there is nothing else hidden here, it's just read it as it is. Quiet. Now we talk about golden ratio. The golden ratio is actually 1:1.61. Now if you're throwing shapes onto your piece, like you don't just draw shapes anyhow. You just draw a square, no dimensions, you just draw it, with no order. There's actually an order to things. 1 + 1 = 2, 2 + 2 = 4, just like that. There has to be a ratio, this side to this side. You don't just throw shapes. That's just it. If you're using this now, let's say you start with a small box, the next box that you're drawing that has to be bigger or smaller should be of a certain relationship to that particular sheet. Let's say you're using your as it says here 1:1.61, you multiply the dimensions of that box by 1.61. That gives you the size of the next shape that you want to do, which you think is bigger. If you want it to be smaller, you divide it by 1.61 to know the size of the shape that you need to use. That's where golden ratio comes in. Now in imagery, as it says the audience responds well to images with people in them. It helps create an emotional connection as campaigns are targeted to real people, and your imagery needs to reflect that. What's this saying? Let me give you an example. Like the picture that is here, you can see Obama's face and the inscription "Hope" written under it. During Obama's campaign, his campaign theme was hope, giving hope to America itself. Now, they didn't just write hope; they put his face there. It's his face giving that form of hope at the same time. That's also what image is talking about, using something relatable. So, and it's not just writing it down. That you now use an image that is going to be very much relatable to individuals that you're trying to give that message to. Now, we're going to talk about some of the free sources of graphic design that you can actually use. You have where you can get high quality images. You can see you have Pexels, StockSnap. You also have for free illustrations. You have the draw kits. You have OnDraw. You have OpenPips. You have for free stock videos. You have Cover Mix kits. You have VDZ. These are all the resources some of the resources that you're going to be needing for the graphics design itself that you're trying to get into. Then you have for the mobile phones, but those are going to be using mobile phones and don't have system PCs, as personal computers that they're going to use. You have Canva, you have PixArt, you have Pixel Lab, you have Infinite Painter, and the rest of them. Then for those that are going to be using a computer, you have Adobe Photoshop, you have Inkscape, you have Adobe Illustrator, you have Canva, and as the list goes down, that's just it. So thank you very much. We hope that you put this to mind as the videos for the graphics design practical itself come up a week later.